What's up everybody and welcome back to a new tutorial. In today's tutorial we're going to go over page transitions in JavaScript. So we're going to create this simple agency page transition. It's a simple one, but you can still take away all the techniques in this tutorial and use it for complex animations. You can do anything. The animation itself is not the important thing. It's how you use the techniques to build your own complex animations or simple ones. So let's just jump into Figma and take a look at the project. So it's a very simple one. We just have an index page and the project details page. And yeah, so the idea here is when you click on a card, we change the text. We have a new button, scale the image, and then hide the links or tags that's surrounding the page. So if we jump in the code for this project, you can see it's a very simple project. We just have index.html, app.js, style.css, and then the project with the index.html. So the first thing I want to just go over in this video is how do you choose or how do you figure out how you want to do page transitions? What libraries do you use and all of that? That was something that I struggled with a lot when I was starting out. I felt like there was some information that I didn't really understood how to learn or how to research and whatnot. So I just wanted to go over a couple different options that you can choose. So the first one is a library called Highway.js. I've seen this in a couple different courses and tutorials. It looks like a cool library. Yeah, they have some Hall of Fame here, so you can see some examples. So yeah, I know this one is very cool. I don't think this is that popular now, to be honest. I feel like it got some traction a couple years back, and then it kind of lost attraction. But I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't have any strong opinions on it. The second one is Swoop. I would say this is probably the most popular at the moment. It used to be a very simple library, but it has gotten pretty extensive over the years. So you can use this for simple animations like this, or they have now I see a lot of plugins and yeah, a lot of different stuff. So I haven't had a look at this properly, but I've tried it on a couple different projects for the more simple ones. But yeah, this is also a library that you can check out. And the last one, and the one we're going to use, is a library called BarbaJS. So this has been around for a long time, and it's a really good and extensive library as well. They have a lot of cool features and a lot of cool and easy ways to do things. So we're going to take a look at how you would start reading the documentation and what you need to set up and everything. But the last point I just wanted to make when choosing a library is go on the page Bundlephobia, and let's say you're in between Swap and Barba, for example. So here you can search for NPM packages, and you would see Swap.js, and you would see the bundle size, how long I guess this is just an average. The download time and everything on slow 3G and 4G. So yeah, not a huge library, of course. But then you have Barba. So Barba Core. So here you see it's 25.1, 121, and 7 milliseconds. And here we have 28 and 182 and 10 milliseconds. So they're very similar. It's not a big difference in this case. But either way, I would say that you should take a look at the size of whatever you're installing, importing. It's all important. And yeah, you should not just like install packages and just not think about the size and complexity and whatnot. But yeah, there's 3 different options, and the last one is also you can write your own custom page transition with the Fetch API. So I usually do that in my personal projects, but that's more complex and something that I might cover in a full course that I'm working on. But for now, let's jump into the tutorial. Okay, so we have in the code here, like I said, just a very simple setup. And the CSS is nothing special. It's just a simple CSS file to get this layout. The only thing that I will say that is different from the Figma file is this image and the actual layout. So here you can see I lay this out on a 12 column grid originally. And as I was building this, and this is something that you might encounter when you start at an agency or you work with designers and different people, that some things are hard to achieve on the web. So for us to have this like scaling effect, it's very hard to, you see here, to lay it out on the actual grid. So what I ended up doing for this tutorial was having this as position fixed instead. And then we're just scaling the height and things instead. So that's the difference in this project, but still the techniques are the same and it's not really important for the page transition aspect of it. So yeah. Okay, so let's get into how we can start setting this up. So if we jump back into the Barba docs, you see here we need to install everything first. So you can either npm install if you use something like Vite or Webpack or whatever, and then you import it in your JavaScript file. But since we don't have any bundler, we're just going to use the script. So you use this and you place that in the head section here. And we also need it on the project page here. So that's everything we need for the scripts or the installment. And then we go to the markup and you see Barba needs to know a little bit about your site architecture. So by default, you can use this markup inside your pages. So here you see we need a body and a main and a couple different data attributes. So I would just copy this and go to the body first, paste it in here. And I already have the main tag with everything inside. That's the main part of the page. So here I would just copy this. And here you see we have data Barba container and data Barba namespace. and set to home. So this means that we can target this later, but yeah, you would have this referring to what page you're on. So we need to do this for the each page that we want to do page transitions on. So on the project as well, we include this and this one. So on the main here. So this can be containers still, but the namespace here, we would say project, for example. You can call this whatever you want, but in our case, we know that we're going to the project page, so that's why we name it that. Okay, so here you can read more about different things that you can do and everything, but now we have everything we need for a basic transition. So if we see here, we can now include Barba in our JavaScript file. So we also want to use GSAP for this page transition. So I'm also going to show you how you install GSAP. So I'll just Google GSAP install. And here again, you see we have either npm, cdn, or yarn. CDN is what we're going to use. That's the script tag. So you can either copy like that. And we need that here and also on this page. And then I am going to remove all this. So now if we go back to Barba, if we just copy this code and paste it in here, let's just go through this code quickly. So we do a barba.init, and then we open up an object inside where we have this transition array. So inside here, we can have multiple transitions that we can choose from later. So I'm going to explain that later or in a bit. So inside the array, we have an object, and then we give our transition a name. So now we just say this is an opacity transition. And the important part of the animation is these two functions. So this refers to when we leave a page, and this is when we enter a page. And if I just remove this, so nothing will happen, you can see if I console log data, and this is something that the Barba library gives to us. So inside the leave function, we have access to this data object. So if I console log that, and I bring up the console, and I click on the new page. Okay, didn't work. Let's check why. Okay, so I just realized I was on the wrong URL or the wrong port. I was on the finished project, so my fault. But yeah, as you see now, when we click on the image or the link, we have access to these data objects that we get from Barba. So inside here, you can see we have a couple different things. We have current, next, and trigger. And the same here. So you see also we have namespace and a lot of different things inside each of these. But the important thing here is if I do, so when we leave, we have access to something called data.current.container. And that refers to, if I click, you see the actual main tag that we added the data Barba container to. So this is the whole markup and stuff from where we are leaving. So that's why this works now. We're saying inside the leave function, do a GSAP animation on the current container and turn the opacity to 0 when we leave. So now each time we leave, the current page is animating out with opacity. And then we can do the same thing here. Whoops. With the enter one. But here we say data.next.container. So we have access to both of these in each of these functions. But here we want to say, when you enter, do a GSAP from opacity 0 on the next page. So that gives the illusion that we're fading in and out. So that's how easy you can create a universal fade transition on your pages. Very easy, and you can obviously extend this to do whatever you want. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this to the next level. So we have leave and we have enter. So I'm just going to remove this for now. And instead of doing data.current.container, I am going to destructure this, and I'm going to do current. And I'm going to do next. So now we directly access the data.current with just current. And what we want to do for this specific project, since we're going from the index page to the project page, and it's a very specific animation. It's scaling an image and everything to match the project page. Because if we had a different page, let's say without image, and we went from this page and this new page had something like this, just some text in the center, or yeah, whatever. We don't want to scale this image and do a bunch of stuff and then go to this page, because then at a certain point, this image would just disappear like that, and it will look really weird. So we need to somehow specify only do this animation when we're going from index to the project. And the way we're going to do that is with what we set up in the beginning with the namespace. So for the front page or the index, we called the namespace home, and on a project, we called it project. So that way in Barba, we can firstly rename this to match what we're trying to do. So we can just call this project transition. You can also call it like project from home, or project from home. And one thing you can do in Barba is you can say, or you can specify. So you can have an object called from, and inside you use the namespace. So we want to do it when we're going from the namespace of home, but you can also extend it to be from another namespace. But for now, we just want to do it from the namespace of home. And then we can also say to. So we want to do it when we go from namespace of home to namespace of project. So a very logical operation now. So the name is this, and And when we go from home to project, we want to run these things. So this would only happen now when these match. So this would not run when you go to a different page. But if you wanted to, you could add a new object here, have this here, and you can say general transition. And you can remove these or have a namespace that reflects whatever you're trying to do. But for now, we're just going to focus on this one. Okay, so we have set up the logic for when we want this to run, but now we want to do something. And what we're going to do, instead of doing all this return GSAP.to and have this whole animation code inside the function, we are going to create them above. So we're going to say leave animation. And what do we need to access inside the leave animation? We need the container that is leaving. So here, we're going to put this in here, and we're going to say current.container. So now we're passing the container into this function. So if I console log container, I'm also just going to do this for the enter. And this was next.container. So enter animation. So now you see that's the leave. So we're going from home, and the next is this page. So the next page we're going to, and this is the current page. So since we have access to the containers, we can actually start query selecting things inside. So we can query select anything we want. And for the leave animation, what we wanted to do was to hide the first text, and then for the new page, we want to reveal the text. Let's start query selecting a couple things. So I'm going to say const title equals, and I'm going to do container dot query selector all hero title span. And in this case, that is referring to the hero title, and I have each line in a span. So this is a span, and this is a span. So we're selecting those. And then we also need to create a timeline for the animation inside here. So I'm going to say const tl equals gsap.timeline. And I'm going to just set up some defaults here. I'm going to say the ease is expo.inout, and the duration is 2 seconds. So now we can return this timeline as the last thing in this leave animation. But we want to, of course, add something to it. So we can say tl.to, and then our title. What do we want to do? We want to move it up by, 64 pixels, and set the auto alpha, which is opacity and visibility, to 0. And I'm going to do a skew y of -1. And I want to stagger each line by 0.1 seconds. And then lastly, we need to add a return here and return the animations, or the functions rather. So if we go back now and click on the project card. You see the animation happening, and then we go to the next page. So there's a couple more things we want to do. So at the moment, we're only hiding the line, but we also want to hide these different things on the card. So we're going to query select a little bit more. So we're going to say card tags, and not document, but container. And we're going to do query selector all, and I just called it tag equals. So I want to do here another 2, and the card tags, just do auto alpha 0. And I want this to happen a little bit quicker. So set the duration to 1. And I want this to happen at the very start of the timeline. So now you see those hide first, and then everything else happens after. So now we have the simple version of this. We can also hide the arrow and the title. So let's find those here. Oops. That should not open. So let's see, card arrow. So I'll just do const card arrow. And that is container.query selector. And then the title for the card. So that's card title. And then we can just add, we can also just add these to the 2 here to just hide all of them at once. So now we have pretty much the setup for the leave animation ready. I'm not gonna do the links around here because I don't feel like it's necessary for the actual animation or the technique. So now let's jump into the enter animation. And it's pretty much the same thing here. We just need to have a vision of what we want to do. So just as we have the container for the leave or for the page we're leaving from, we have the container here for the page we're entering. So we can start doing a couple const here. So const card is container.query selector.card. And that's the whole card here. So we use the same markup on the project page. So the styling is the same. I just copied and pasted this whole thing from the index page and pasted it into the project page and just removed these like arrows and what I didn't need. So so we have the card, and let's have the card image. And the title. Okay, and then the same thing, set up a GSAP.timeline. I'll add some defaults here. And the same here, expo.inout for the easing and duration of 2 seconds. we need to return the timeline from the function. And then we're going to add stuff to the timeline. So the card image, we want this to scale to 1 because initially we have in the CSS a scale of 1.3. So if you see here, it's a little bit zoomed out. So if I show you, we have a image wrapper with overflow hidden, and inside the image is scaled. So yeah, that's the normal scale. So we can scale this up and it will just overflow inside the container. So we want to scale this down to 1. And then we're going to do the actual card. And we're going to set the height of this card to 80%. So let's see now just how this looks. So you see, yeah, everything is happening kind of one after the other. So it looks kind of weird. But now we have that. And now we need to do the title here. So if we do a dot from of the title, and we do auto alpha 0. So we're going from that now, and from 64, stagger each line by 0.1 and skew y of 1. So this is the exact opposite of the leave animation. We went to minus 64, auto alpha 0, skew minus 1. So this will move up and the enter one will come up from the bottom. So if you see now, and then, yeah. So now it's happening one after the other, so it takes a long time. Okay, cool. So let me just see if we missed anything. So everything here is happening. Okay, nice. So we have everything as far as the animation, but we need to tweak the timing a little bit on the enter one. So here we want everything to happen at once, basically. So we can just do 0 for each. So this is at what time should this one start, and they should all start at 0. So now they'll start at the same time. Cool. So now we have kind of the animation. But as you see, things are happening too slow. And what we can do to fix this is there's a setting in Barba called sync. So by default, if we go down here, by default, how it works is the leave will run first. And when that is done, then we go to the next page and then we run this one. But we actually want to run those at the same time because we want to move this title up and also have the new one come in at the same time. We want to hide these and scale the image at the same time as the text is animating. So we can do this by adding sync true. But just quickly before I do that, I just want to say if you want to do, like if you want to have the traditional fade animation or have something cover the screen and then going up and then revealing the new page, you don't want to use sync true. You only want to use sync if you want to have some sort of overlap between the animations. So if I just add this now, what you will see is everything happens at once. So with the sync true, what we can actually do is just offset the enter animation a little bit. So now they're happening exactly at the same time. But we want this enter animation, and we can do this in the GSAP. We can say delay of, if I do 1 second, you'll see more clearly. So now I click, and 1 second after that animation happens. So we can tweak this to our liking to find the sweet spot. So you see, you can have different feelings depending on the delay. I chose 0.1. So now it looks seamless in my opinion. The only thing you need to keep in mind is when we add sync true, what is actually happening is both of the Barba containers are at the page at the same time. So if I click, you see both at the same time. So when you first set this up, you have to do position. You have to do position fixed on the main, because what will happen if you don't have that, if I just remove this for now, is, so if I click now, you see I can scroll down and the enter one is actually below. So it's just adding the enter container below at the same time. So to have them at the same place, I just have position fixed. So they're now on top of each other. So that's why also these little tags and things are disappearing, because the enter container is instantly above. So there's different ways you can tackle that. I'm not going to do it in this tutorial because it's not really important for the animation, but yeah. That was it for this video. Very simple one. Like I've said before, I'm working on a full course, and I'm going to do a more more detailed page transition, and we're going to have multiple projects and yeah, whatnot. But I hope you enjoy this video regardless, and if you have any questions, just leave it in the comments and I'll make sure to reply. So yeah, have a good day and see you in the next one.